We are not done with the Grand Duke Georgij Romanov DNA drama. So, the conclusions from the study that established that George and Nicholas shared the same point heteroplasmy mutation were not good enough for some people. So, another group of scientists decided to do their own study, same thing we saw with Ella and Alexandra, and they got some hairs that were supposedly attributed to George and did some testing on it, and they were like, hey, these are not the same mitochondrial DNA results that the first paper got, so the first paper must be wrong. And then they did another study using DNA supposedly extracted from a blood-stained handkerchief that had been used on Nicholas to bind his wounds after he was visiting Japan and was attacked by a random dude wielding a sword and injured him on his head. So this bloodstained handkerchief was just like hanging out in a museum or a collection in Japan, and they tried to get some DNA off of that too. And again, they're like, hey, our results don't match what the first couple papers got, so they must be the ones who are wrong. The weird thing about these two studies is that one of them was published in a Japanese journal, and I have not been able to find either that article that I can run through a translator or an English translation of that article. So I don't have access to it at all as far as what I found. Someone else clearly did, because I read a paper that talked about these studies and was able to cite it. The other study wasn't published at all, which is always kind of a red flag, especially if the conclusions are, trying to be sensational, trying to say like, hey, these other people got it wrong first, and we have the right conclusions. So that's always a big red flag for me, and I have seen this happen before where big claims are made based on a scientific study, but we can't find a paper. It wasn't published, or there's just no access to that study and their methods. So then no one else can read it and be like, hey, this doesn't make sense, or hey, why did you do it like that? So that was the Georgij Romanov DNA drama.